Hey, what's going on, guys? Another Austin translation video here. This I'm talking about Last Breath, which came out a couple weeks ago, maybe February 28th, I guess it says right there. Yeah, so less than a month ago, but I haven't had the chance to see it until right now, and I'm glad I did because this one got me. It's a real human story. It's based on a true story. I'm not sure when exactly it took place, but it's about some divers off the coast of Scotland whose job it is to go down pretty deep and do some maintenance on some pipes that are on the seabed floor for heating and comfort for Scotland so that they don't go cold in the next winter. Just regular maintenance stuff. They have a rotation of guys that go down there. You need to spend the whole time, pressurizing your cells, decompressing. It's a whole process. So they spend about a month, about 4 weeks in this chamber, and then a couple days on the ground on the seabed floor, checking out this pipe and this manifold, which is sort of like the power plant down there, the little generator unit. And it's a really great short film. It's a tight 93 minutes. There's actually a documentary about this story that came out apparently in, what was it, 2018, I think I saw. But this one got me. This one is really worth a watch. It's truly a story about the testament of the human spirit. I mean, the main character, his name is Chris. You don't really get to know him. You don't really need to get to know him. Thriller. And for, half the movie, you're not really even focusing on Chris. So they don't need to go deep into his character development. It's not like it's a fictional character that you need to establish his motivation or anything like that. He's got a young fiance back home that he's trying to, kind of make his way up in the career field that he's in, getting on these rigs, doing these maintenance jobs. So he's in there with some veterans as he's sort of the greenie. So Simu and Woody Harrelson play the supporting actors, and they do a great job. They actually carry about this, I think, the whole second act of the film. Simu surprised me in this movie. It was kind of cringe at first, especially if you've seen some of the stuff he's done recently, Barbie and Shang-Chi, where he's like the tough guy in this one. Mind you, he's built. He does have a physique, and he's like working. He's the strong guy though, so it's a little okay. Simu, the tough guy now, right? He was just in Barbie. But if you can get past that, he does a great job being sort of the guy who doesn't want to get too attached to anyone emotionally because he's aware of what could happen if you lose someone. So this movie, it got me. I don't know why it was tugging on my heartstrings as much as it did. I was the only one in this theater. It's this middle of nowhere theater with old seats that no one goes to in the middle of the day, and it can definitely be like a personal experience when you're in a theater alone. If you guys haven't seen a movie in a theater alone, I highly recommend it. It depends on the movie, but you know what I mean. This film, I did not expect it to be as good as it was, and I'm happy the audience agrees with me. They're giving it a 91%. I don't know why the critics are giving it a 79. What do they want? Some CG, some wokeness? I mean, I'm not sure if the guy that Simu playing was Asian in the actual real life story, so there's some representation there, but no, this is great to see. I'm glad to see audiences supporting this. I think it was made for a tight 23 million euros. So, around there in dollars, US dollars. And I'm sure it turned a profit. There's no way it's not making some money. This definitely doesn't lose money. I didn't really see much for marketing anywhere on this, So this is how you do it. This is how you make movies. Hollywood needs to return to this. Real stories about the human condition. People with very little and with a lot to lose and everything to prove. And what do you do when you might not necessarily know or agree with everyone you're working with on a project, but you might not be wartime, but you're still serving your country. You're putting your life at risk to do these crazy things. And then when something goes wrong, that the brotherhood of brothers in arms being there for each other, going out of their way, sacrificing themselves to do a rescue mission, putting everyone's lives at risk, taking chances, thinking on the fly. Everyone on the ship up top has specific jobs and roles to play in this, and I like how the script kind of divvies it up. Everyone kind of gets a moment to shine. There's this guy working in the server room who figures out how to jerry-rig the series of boot, like the boot process, the startup process, and he figures out a way to minimize the time it needs to do that so they can get the GPS-locked thrusters back online because had to be put into manual for a bit just to prevent a certain amount of drift away from the target location without giving too much away. And the captain, the sub-captains, the younger guys who are there and who are using the drones underwater to kind of give a visual image back to the ship up top. Just really interesting stuff. You learn a lot about, or you get a glimpse into the life of what it might be to actually have a job like this, and how it reminds you how many stories like this can possibly go on in any given day without the greater public knowing, because unless you're really in Scotland or there in the UK, I don't think the story would ever really get out here unless you're one of the fortunate people to watch that documentary, which I'm going to have to check out now. This guy does a great job. I forget his name. Finn Cole. He does a great job. I knew he looked familiar. I'd seen him in Peaky Blinders when he was a bit younger. And he kills it in this as sort of like the guy who's just happy to be there. He's just lucky to get this job opportunity. He doesn't want to let the older dogs down, and he just feels like he's letting everyone down. But, that sort of earnesty is what sort of really enables everyone to want to rally behind him and help him out. If this guy was any other person in real life, if his personality wasn't contagious with his sort of happiness and his energy, maybe some people would have taken a couple extra seconds or precious seconds and minutes to make decisions to help him out. Maybe it would have turned out much worse. But it's really worth a watch. Even though I pretty much knew how it was going to end, I was still... Man, my anxiety was through the roof. It's like, this is a thriller if you've ever seen a thriller, like in terms of the tension that it builds. Even though you can pretty much expect how it's going to end, it still brings you along for the ride. I really recommend watching this movie. I agree with the audience rating here, 91%. That's a solid review. 79, that's a little low. I don't know what they're probably just jealous that they made it on such short of a budget and probably a couple of weeks filming too. They're probably really jealous. They don't want to give it the full 91 that it deserves. But if Hollywood wants to take note and learn anything and start turning a profit, start doing what this movie did. Tell real stories about people coming together in the face of adversity. When man versus nature. This is like a man versus nature story where relative strangers come together and they pick up the slack and they really deliver on a nice heroic story that just really inspires you, makes you want to serve, makes you want to help, makes you want to survive, makes you want to do great things and keep society running. It's great to remind what people go through every day to kind of keep society running. It's humbling. It's scary as heck. I don't know what it is about the deep ocean that gets under my skin. It creeps the hell out of me. More so than space, maybe because I grew up by the coast. I've had my fair share of hours spent in the sea, and when you're alone out there and you can't see below a couple feet, it can get creepy not knowing what's actually down there and what it might feel like to be completely shut off away from everyone else in tumultuous seas. Like the sea is scary. I kind of go down YouTube rabbit holes sometimes about like, we don't know what's in the ocean, scariest things. The sea is definitely a place of existential crisis for the human condition. I think there's a lot to be said about the man versus nature element here and what it could really mean in terms of, thematically just going into the abyss. It's almost Lovecraftian in a way. I'm so glad this took place on Earth, tangible, based on a true story. I'm kind of sick of over budget, blown out of proportion sci-fis. I liked this movie a lot. Loved it, actually. Highly recommend it. So go check out Last Breath, and thank you for watching if you did. I'm struggling to get more than 5 views per video right now, but trying to see if this channel can grow and get some momentum under it. So if you could give me some feedback, let me know, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's keep this going. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.